Hi, I'm Angeline. I'm at Painted Rock Archaeology Site in Arizona, and it is one of the highest concentrations, if not the highest concentration of petroglyphs in one area anywhere. And right behind me, you see some concentric circles in this rock here. Those concentric circles are between me and the sunset and this point on the top of this volcanic rock pile that features an image of a grid. That grid also stands on top of a small cave with a sun glyph, a sun type glyph inside of it. And on sunrise, but at midday of the winter solstice, a sun dagger pierces the center of the sun glyph, marking the winter solstice. The most important day of the year, because the sun has traveled to its winter standstill, where it hovers in the same place for a few days, southernmost on the horizon, and we worry that it may fall off the end of the earth and never return to us and bring us heat. So we have to live proper lives and perform proper ceremonies to ensure that it will begin rising and setting more northern and more northern on the horizon, in days to come. So winter solstice observatory locations are very important, and we're here to see one today. I'll tell you a little bit more about this area and why there are so many petroglyphs here that don't have anything to do with solstice at this site. And we'll also watch the sun progression over the sun glyph.
So let's jump straight to the big question. This is called painted rocks, but there don't appear to be any painted rocks. Why is that? Well, it is believed that there was paint on these images originally. And in fact, the Yavapai continue to have active use of this place until the 1880s, which is well into historic times. And they are known for painting inside petroglyphs. There are also a lot of grinding rocks here, but it's known that they weren't used for grinding food. It is believed that they were used for grinding pigments and or medicinal plants, hallucinogens, for use in ceremony with these rocks, with these painted rocks. Who was here and when and why? Well, this site's been in heavy use since at least 300 BCE, but there's some indication it could go back as far as 10,000 years. And this is something that's currently being worked on, the dating of the site. People are analyzing the style of the petroglyphs, and the 10,000-year-old variety would be called Western Archaic, and I think there's even some signage that calls it that, but true Western Archaic doesn't show up at this site. However, there is a style that's similar to Western Archaic, but not exactly, so if it's of that remote vintage, it's a local archaic style. Also, a style that's found in these rocks is the Gila style. So who was painting this and why? It's in between culture centers. It's on a thoroughfare. First, the natives were walking past these rocks, then the Spanish, then the Mexicans, then the 49ers, then the stagecoaches, and then for a bit of time, around 1879, the railroad was built away, and so the path through this area was moved to where the railroad was taking people through, and there stops being activity at the painted rocks. But when the road was built, the traffic came back. And so this has always been a place. It's a passageway. It's the highway. It's on the highway, if you will, and always has been. So the Patayan and the human-speaking tribes are to the west of painted rocks. The Quetzan, the Pipash, the Yavapai, and then to the east are the Hohokam, the A'atam speaking tribes. They're to the east, and so this is possibly this was some kind of meeting place. It was certainly some kind of common travel area. And what's interesting to note about the petroglyphs here is that none of them overlap. There must be thousands of images on these rocks, and it looks like perhaps they overlap because it just seems like a jumble when you look at them, but no images overlap. So what that indicates is that there was respect for every single image that was placed there. I don't know what the explanation is for why that was marked. These rocks were marked as they are, but I do know that this is a winter solstice sun dagger observatory. And I went there on the winter solstice and I saw it myself, and it was cool. So I recorded it for you. Now, please forgive the quality of this time lapse. They're very strict about not allowing you to approach the actual nook where the sun event happens. I had to run a time lapse using the zoom on my camera, my cell phone even, and then just periodically press take a photo button. So it's kind of jumpy, but you get the picture and you can see what it does. Now, I had the pleasure of spending some time with somebody who was camping there at Painted Rocks, and he knew of this as a solstice observatory site as well, but he didn't know it happened midday. He thought that it might happen at sunrise. So he was out at sunrise watching the same little nook, and he lent me his photos. It shows sunrise. He showed me where the sun rose over the mountain facing the Painted Rock. And as you'll be able to see a little more clearly in the later photos, it also casts a shadow that divides two prominent images that are inside that nook. There's no sun dagger at all. And so he actually had lost faith and wasn't sure what was going on. I was out there at midday and he joined me and we watched this together. I want to make one more observation that I see over and over again, because I like to go out and visit a variety of solstice sites all over the Southwest. And at almost every single site, there is a prominently featured grid pattern carved in the rocks. I don't know if I can say the same actually for paint. I don't know if I see pictographs that way, but I definitely see grids of, grid patterns at solstice and equinox sites, not necessarily at other kind of pictograph or petroglyph sites. So I think that's an interesting thing to take note of, and I'm kind of trying to look into that some more. If you know anything about that, let me know. So right around noon, I would say, the Sun Dagger event happens, and here it is for you. It has about 3 dagger phases, so be patient, sit tight, and watch to the end, and I'll repeat the finish for you.